The FDA has finalized a rule change yesterday that broadens availability of abortion pills. Now major chains like CVS or Walgreens, as well as online pharmacies, will be allowed to offer the drug mifepristone. Under the new rules, women can get a prescription from a certified healthcare provider and then receive the pills through the mail in states where it is permitted by law.
Hey, thanks.
Shalom. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. I want to give double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, because those are the men that I learned this truth from through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Yahweh is the true name of the God of Israel. Yahweh Shai is what the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, but his one and only true name is Yahweh Shai. And pretty much this is what's going on today. The FDA has finalized a rule change that broadens the availability of abortion pills, meaning that now, you know, a woman, she doesn't necessarily have to pay $500 anymore. Now she could just be a whore, right? She could sleep with as many men as she wants, right? And she can get a prescription and she could pick up the abortion, right? The procedure to do the abortion, it's in the form of a pill now. And now she could go to CVS, she could go to Walgreens, she can even have it delivered to her address due to what? Online pharmacies. So who do you have to blame for this? The Edomites. Who are the Edomites today? All right, the so-called white man and his seed line, beginning with the central bankers on down. They own and run the FDA. They own and run Hollywood. They own and run everything, even the banking system. So you have to blame them. They're the ones that introduce feminism into the world. They are the ones that promote women having liberty, women's liberation. Because who funded this? The Rockefellers, all right? They started or funded the women's liberation so that they could be able to tax women, to be able to make more money and destroy the Israelite homes, all right? The house structures, taking the father out of the house, making the woman more masculine, to where she don't care about her man or her kids. She just cares about her career. Because anytime you have a woman that's quote unquote successful, in order for you to be successful, you have to be masculine. All right, that's a masculine trait. So this is what the so-called white man promotes, equality here. All right, although the elite, they don't live like that. They live in order. All right. So now let's just get into this real quick. So this is the actual article from Reuters.com. It says U.S. FDA allows abortion pills to be sold at retail pharmacies. So, you know, men over here, especially in America, you know, we dealing with westernized women. You know, they're a bunch of feminists. If they don't confess themselves to be feminists, they have a feminist logic way of thinking and reasoning. All right. Because even going back to the Garden of Eden, you know, our women have been corrupted for generations. So they don't really respect us. That's why you got this big movement called the passport bros. You know, pretty much you got Israelites, so-called Negroes, Hispanics, Native American Indians that go overseas to find a wife, because the women over here, they're corrupted. All right, they're corrupted and they're masculine and they can't be told anything. So this is what it looks like. All right, so you could check it out. You could do your own research, but this is nothing new. All right, you had the ancient Egyptians. They tried to exterminate Israel. All right, and you even had Herod. He even tried to exterminate all the male sons during the time when Yahweh Shah was born. So I'm going to briefly go into this, and Lord willing, you're edified by this lesson. So this is actually a quote, right, from the person that originally started Planned Parenthood. Her name is Margaret Sanger, all right? And this is a quote from 1939. As you can see right there, Planned Parenthood founder, right? A so-called white woman. She's an Edomite according to the Bible, right? This is what she said. This is why you have Planned Parenthood. We do not want word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. Who is the Negro population? The Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. Because when the Spanish conquistadors, all right, or the so-called Jews from Portugal, all right, Spain, when they came over here, they called the so-called Native American Indians and Hispanic-speaking tribes, they called them Negroes, all right? When they looked at them, they called them Negroes. So this also includes them as well, all right? So this is the goal of Planned Parenthood. This is the objective, all right? This is the mission, to exterminate the Israelites. But you can't do that according to the Bible, all right? Let's see what else she said. It says birth control is the first important step woman must take toward the goal of her freedom. And this is more corruption. This is more deception. All right. When you read Genesis, the 3rd chapter and verse 16, a woman's desire is supposed to be unto her husband. But what has replaced that mindset in woman? The feminist movement, woman's liberation, a woman loving her career more than her God-given gift, which is to serve her husband, all right? And to serve her kids, to be a helpmate unto her husband, right? So it says, it is the first step she must take to be man's equal. When you read in the scriptures, a man has his role, a woman has her role. A man is above a woman. There's absolutely no such thing, when you read the Bible, of equality, all right? Men and women are not equal. You read 1 Peter, the 3rd chapter, I think it's around verse 5, all right? The woman is the weaker vessel. There's a reason why when you read in the book of Genesis, the serpent, which was an actual man, right? He went to the woman because she is the weaker vessel, all right? Adam would have rejected that. But the woman, being the weaker vessel, she's easier to manipulate. And that's what the so-called white man has done over the years. First beginning with the women's liberation movement, all right? He has promised these women benefits and has given it unto them, and they have rejected their husbands. They have rejected the law, statutes, and commandments concerning the Israelite woman, right? So it says, it is the first step they must both take toward human emancipation. And this is the mindset of the devil. All right. So now let's get into the scriptures briefly. Now this is Genesis chapter 27 and verse 41. I'm just going to get to the point because this is dealing with what? Isaac, he was getting ready to pass away. And before he passed away, he blessed his 2 kids, Esau and Jacob. Esau being the eldest, Jacob came out after. But the blessing went to Jacob, right? So this is Genesis 27 and 41. So after Esau received this blessing, all right, and Jacob received his blessing, Esau was mad, right? Because ultimately he sold his birthright willingly unto Jacob because he was faint for a raw piece of meat. Genesis 27 and 41. And Esau, who is Esau? Esau is the progenitor of the so-called white race, all right? Everybody on the planet Earth comes from the seed of a particular man that once lived on the planet. The so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native American Indians, we come from the seed line of Jacob. Seed goes back to the Greek word sperma, all right, which means seed, pretty much. That's where you get offspring, your ancestry, your descendancy, your pedigree, your genealogy. All of these things is determined by the seed of a man, all right? So that's where the so-called white man comes from. All right, even the small hats, the JEWSs. So it says, and Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, meaning his mind, right? The days of mourning for my father are at hand, then will I slay my brother Jacob. So from this time period all the way up until right now, that's what the Edomites have been doing to the children of Israel, That's what the Edomites have been doing. They have been raping, robbing, and murdering us and committing horrendous atrocities against our people, all right? And how do they break up the homes? How do they destroy our people? By targeting our women, all right? So now let's get into this. This is Habakkuk chapter 2 and verse, I think it's 15. Habakkuk 2 and 15, it says, woe unto him that giveth his neighbor drink, all right? Now, it could be a literal drink, but the drink or the wine is always referred to as what? Philosophies, all right? Metaphorically. It says that puttest thy bottle to him and makest him drunken. And that's what these Edomites have done, you know, with the American dream, but more importantly, with this feminist movement, all right? Women's liberation, the sodomite agenda, promising things that they never fall through on, right? It says, to him and makest him drunken also, that thou mayest look on their nakedness. And that's what goes on, all right? They look at our people as a bunch of dysfunctional people. They can't get along, but you the root of the cause, though. You the one that came out with the feminist movement, the women's liberation, the sodomite agenda, putting drugs and guns into our neighborhoods, all right? Going back to the late 70s and 80s. You got to blame the Edomites for that. The CIA did that when you do your research, all right? So that's what the Edomites like to do. They like to point the finger, right, at our people, and they like to say, "Oh, look at how these people act." But the way how they acting is according to your agenda that you did to them. Let's get this. This is Exodus. Now, this is dealing with our captivity in Egypt, right? Because the topic is Planned Parenthood, how they wanted to exterminate the seed line of Jacob. Well, the Egyptians, they tried to do that too. Exodus 1:13. It says, and the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor, right? And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage. And that's why at the Passover, we eat the bitter herbs, all right? To remind us of the bitterness of the captivity of Egypt. It says, in mortar and in brick and in all manner of service, right? Building the pyramids, in the field, all their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor, you know, out in that hot ass sun, right? It says, and the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of one was Shaphrah. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, but you see how it's spelled right there. It says, and the name of the other, Pu'ah. And he said, when ye do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew woman, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son. And that's another thing. That's how a woman is supposed to, you know, give birth, all right? They would squat. They wouldn't be laying flat down on their back. You know, that's another wicked thing that these devils do. But that's a different conversation. It says, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him. So even back then, the Egyptians, they tried to do that. They tried to exterminate our people. It says, then ye shall kill him, but if it be a daughter, then she shall live. Because the daughter, she's the weaker vessel, and she doesn't carry seed. Because what was the new Pharaoh afraid of? Us multiplying and taking over Egypt. So he wanted to stop that process, all right, by getting rid of the sons. Because the man is the progenitor of life. The man is the one that carries the seed, and one man can pregnate the whole entire world if he wanted to, if the Most High allowed it, all right? A woman, she doesn't carry seed. Therefore, there's no point in a woman being a whore, having multiple husbands, having multiple sleeping partners. She doesn't carry seed. So there's no benefit in doing that. And that's not according to the law, statutes, and commandments. So that's why he wanted to keep the daughters alive, right? So that when the Egyptians, right, the Hamites impregnate our woman, that's a Hamitic seed. It don't matter if it come out dark-skinned with curly hair and features of an Israelite. That's a Hamite seed in the Israelite woman, all right? It says, then she shall live. But the midwives fear Yahweh and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, because you do got some good sisters that's out there, all right? You have accounts in the scriptures where you had righteous Israelite women that feared the Lord, all right? It says, yep, of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive. So that's heavy. They had great faith. Now let's go back to Rome now, right? So now when you deal with this account in Matthew, the 2nd chapter, right, you had Herod, he saw the star up in the sky, which the star was actually a so-called UFO. It was an actual, vehicle. All right. And he seen it, and he knew that the Messiah was about to be born. So pretty much he gathered Israelites, and he was asking, where is this Messiah, or where is Yahweh going to be born at? And then they told him Bethlehem, right? So then it goes on to pretty much mention how an angel visited Joseph and Mary in a dream, all right, and told them to flee out of Rome and to go into Egypt. So there you go. So now let's get into this. So this is Matthew chapter 2 and verse 16. I'm just getting to the point. Remember, the topic is Planned Parenthood, right? Or the origins of Planned Parenthood. It says, then Herod, Matthew 2 and 16, then Herod, which was an actual Edomite, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceeding wroth, meaning he was very angry, and sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem and in all the coast thereof, because that's where they told him the Messiah was going to be born, according to the prophecies of the scriptures, right? It says, and in all the coast thereof. So that's a lot of killing, man. These devils, they're going to pay for that. When Yahweh come back, they're going to pay for that, all right? They killed a lot of our people during this time and this time. It says, from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men. Then was fulfilled that which was spoken by Jeremiah, the prophet, saying, in Ramah was there a voice heard, lamentation and weeping and great mourning, Rachel weeping for her children, and would not be comforted, before they are not. All right? So that's what happened. So after that, Herod, he goes on to die, and then the angel visited them in a dream again, Joseph and Mary, and told them you could go back. So let me end it off with this. This is Sirach chapter 12 and verse 16. An enemy speaketh sweetly with his lips. And who's our number one enemy? The tribe of Amalek of the nation of Edom. All right? Who are the Amalekites? The so-called the small hats, or the JEWSs. All right? The so-called white man in sea line. They are our number one enemy, as well as all the heathen nations. An enemy speaketh sweetly with his lips, meaning what? He promised you things. All right? He tries to manipulate your mind. He tries to get you to have your guard down, to bow down unto him, and he'll give you, something in return, right? But in his heart, meaning his mind, he imagineth how to throw thee into a pit. And that's exactly what these devils do, all right? They promise you something, oh, this can help you out, but then they got a bunch of side effects. Oh, convert to this, but then here's the negatives. There's always pros and cons with this devil, but he never wants to tell you about the cons until it's too late. So it says, he will weep, because you got to understand, all these FDA prescription drugs, all of them have side effects. It's just like when you're watching TV and they might show some type of prescription drug. They show how amazing it is, how much of a miracle it is. But then in very small red letters, and keep in mind the screen is moving fast, they say the side effects fast. It's almost like they speed up the time 2x to where you can't even understand what they're saying. And people never pay attention to that. It says he will weep with his eyes, meaning he'll cry with you. Here you are suffering from the destruction that he did unto our people, but he'll cry with us like if he really feels sorry for us, when he's the culprit, when he's the root of the problem, right? He will weep with his eyes, but if he find opportunity, he will not be satisfied with blood. And that's these devils, all right? Habakkuk 2 and 5. They're not satisfied with the dominion and the power that the Most High have given them temporarily. That's not enough for these devils, all right? It says he will not be satisfied with blood. If adversity come upon thee, what is adversity? Troubling times, a position of difficulty, right? Straits. If adversity come upon thee, thou shalt find him there first. So ask yourself, what's some of the things that you're suffering with. You suffering with a woman because they westernized, they got this feminist mindset. Well, who's the root of that problem? The Rockefellers, the Edomites, right? You got a lot of people, they dying from this JABS, right? Who's to blame for that? Who was advertising this on the news? Edomites, trying to convince you to take it. Oh, you can't go back to work unless you have this. You got to blame them for everything, man. I'm tired of these people. These people, they always like to say, you know, Illuminati this, Illuminati. Well, what the hell do they look like? What's their names? They're Edomites. That's the point. It says, if adversity come upon thee, thou shalt find him there first. The earth is suffering, all right? Everything is out of course. Everything is backwards according to the scriptures. Who's to blame for that? The Edomites, because they're in power. They're in rulership. It says, and though he pretend to help thee, yet shall he undermine thee. Exactly. Because what is he going to label you? Anti-Semitic, right? He's going to try and demonize you, you know, for exposing them. It says he will shake his head and clap his hands and whisper much and change his countenance. And that's exactly what they do with that anti-Semitic term. When you try and expose these devils, now you blacklisted. Now you the worst person in the world. Now you racist, you this and that. Why? Because you're going against their agenda, all right? To ultimately get rid of the Israelites or to enslave the Israelites and separate us from worshiping Yahweh and Yahawashi. And they plan to ultimately do that with this chip, all right? But the elect is not going to bow down to your New World Order. And Lord willing, you know, Lord will not be a part of the elect. I'm not taking no damn chip, all right? And the elect ain't taking the chip. So Lord willing, you was edified by the lesson. Shalom.